Hi there, and welcome to this part 2 of part 1 actually of drawing with the Reilly method. And I'm using a charcoal pencil for this, of course. And in last week's tutorial you could see me draw in the Reilly lines on three photos I took of myself, looking downwards, straight forward and upwards. And these are all front views. Now, what is easiest for you to do when you start to try out this Reilly method is to first take a reference picture and then draw it the same size. And first I wanted to point out how big the head is going to be, and I draw in a little bit of the contours and the middle center line, of course, and where the eyes are going to be. And then I simply start copying the lines that I've drawn in over that picture that I took of myself. Now, I would recommend that you also take pictures of yourself, of course, or somebody you want to draw, and then place a sheet next to it. I'm using the Ingress paper. This is by Frontal. It has a little bit of ribbles in it and it can help you a lot, but a plain sketching paper will do the trick too. And then start copying those lines, and the lines represent the muscles that are inside our faces. So that is what is happening here. And I'm also drawing in the eyeballs, where the irises sit upon and where the flesh is going around those eyeballs. And I'm simply copying all those Reilly lines. Now, I am new to this technique and I want to see what it will bring me. And you can also see here that the earlobes, for instance, are a little bit higher than the lower line of the nose. So you immediately start to recognize and to see where things are placed. So I'm really curious about it. And I thought while I am being a newbie at the Reilly method, it would be amazing, not only for you, but also for me, to see what it will bring me. And if it's really working. So that's what I'm trying to do. And then, of course, next week we will take a side view portrait and then put that into practice that next week, and also the 3/4. So just start out easy. And this is the front view, and what I want to do also is to place that head on a body. So I'm also drawing in the colbert that I'm wearing here. And once I've placed in the major lines, I can start to put in the eyes and the irises. But what you do not want to do is to get into much detail. Please focus on the major forms, and just start looking for where the shadows lay in maybe 2 or 3 values. And just do not get into too much detail. Do not get attached to your drawing too much. Just see it as a practice. And I'm also not aiming for any likeness yet. I just want to see where the Reilly lines go, and I try to get a nice feel of 3D. So that's all that I am focusing on. Now, on my Patreon page, I'm drawing live, and you can see the real time, and you can get the prints if you want. And you can start following this Reilly method. for only the price of a cup of coffee per month. Now here you can see those little lines that I was talking about, that the ingress paper is showing through once you apply the pigments of the charcoal or the pastel or your graphite if you want. You can actually see those little lines there that the ingress paper has, and the ingress paper is new to me too, so well, I'm quite exploring here two ways, new method and new kinds of paper, but I'll just see what they will bring me and if it is well, worth it to maybe buy for yourself. I'm not bothered by the little lines, I must say, and I'll just see what it brings us. In the meantime, I'm still searching for the shadows, so I'm simply looking at myself, a reference picture, and here I'm placing that shadow underneath the chin and the line, the separation line of the lips, and you can see I have quite small lips, so I try to draw them in small too, and I'm using my finger to to rub in the pigments into that ingress paper and to soften up the structure, if you want, make it a little bit more smooth as I'm drawing along. Now what you also see is that I'm bringing in a little bit of a value for the background, and when I look at my reference picture, you can see that the face itself is lighter than the background, so I also draw it that way. I simply am drawing literally what I'm seeing, but just in a sketchy way. And you can also, of course, use a brush to put the pigments in. And what you can see here is a little piece of natural charcoal. Now, natural charcoal is a very, very quick medium to draw with. And I simply very quickly put in the shadows that I see and the darker areas. Not fussing about it too much, just put it in there roughly, and well, put it in for the irises. And natural charcoal is very, very soft. I like it. Some people cannot stand it because they say, well, once I rub it, my drawing is gone. But that is only partially true, because your drawing will stay there a little bit. It will shine through a little bit. And the first layer of pigments indeed is on top of the paper, but a little bit will always stay there. I will demonstrate that for you with the brush. So here I'm simply using that natural charcoal to find out where the darker areas are, and to put in very quickly a background, for instance. It's just very, very fast. And then I take the brush and I simply pull those pigments off a little bit, and then you can actually see the face and the Reilly lines still shining through. So this is not a very particularly beautiful drawing, but it's an excellent study. This is a very, very nice way to study indeed, because you are training your eye and hand coordination to draw like a painter. So that is why I love charcoal so much. And maybe I will never be a painter or something ever, but still it's nice to draw like a painter. Then I take a kneaded eraser, and you can see it here, And I can simply pull out some hair and bring up some highlights on on my forehead, for instance. And you can also always go back in there with the charcoal pencil, of course, if you want to make your drawing a little bit more exciting. Or maybe you want to put in a little bit of detail. That's perfect, of course, no problem. But I try not to go into too much detail. I do not want to get too much attached to this drawing. It has to stay a study, just a quick study, nothing more, nothing less, and then I will put it aside and do another one. Now, of course, you can go into a little bit of detail if you want to practice a part. So maybe I want to see what I can do with that eye. I'm always wearing mascara, a little bit of makeup, and then I can see if I can make an eye, for instance, look more like my own. But that's actually, when you're just starting with this Reilly method, then this is not very important yet. But I must say, as I'm just drawing from freehand here, it kind of looks like me. So I'm, happily surprised that even when the drawing didn't look like much when I started out, I was just seeing some weird looking lines, and it could be a man or a woman or something. Once I start putting in the shadows and a little bit of detail, then actually there is a little bit of likeness starting to appear here. So, I'm actually quite amazed about it, because I'm still having problems with drawing in likeness, and I'm sure hoping that this Reilly method is going to help us with that. So this was practice number 1, the front view of the portrait. And I surely hope that you will give this a try too, of course, and that you will follow the upcoming lessons too. And hopefully your drawings will improve a lot. So I hope to see you again, of course, next week, and maybe on my Patreon page if you want to have the prints or more real-time tutorials. That's a possibility. But anyways, I will see you again next Friday.